Hey, it's software engineering student here, and today we're going to be talking about inheritance. So, inheritance is one of the four pillars when it comes to the object-oriented programming paradigm. We already talked about encapsulation, and today we're going to be talking about inheritance. So, inheritance is basically the ability of one class to extend another class and thereby using the already pre-created code from one class in another class. So, it might seem a bit confusing, but let's just get started. It's easier when you get an example. So let's create a new class. We're going to create an animal class, which is going to be a super class. Then we're going to create a subclass, which would be extending animal and thereby reusing all the abilities from our animal class. So first of all, we're going to keep using encapsulation. So we're going to create a private string name and a private int age, which I guess is like the basics we need for an animal. Maybe, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it for that for now. That's simple. So first of all, let's create a constructor. Public animal takes in a string name and an int age. I'm gonna access our attributes by using this keyword, this dot name equals name, and this dot age equals age. And let's create some basic methods. So, because we made our attributes private, they would only be accessible inside our own class. But if we either wanted them to be accessible in our main class or maybe in our subclass we're going to be creating shortly, we would need to make a getter method. So let's create a public string get name, which returns name. So this is our basic animal class. So now let's create another animal. Let's create like a specific animal, which is going to be reusing our already pre-created attributes, constructor, and methods. So let's create a bear. So our bear class would have, I guess, I don't know if there's anything very specific about a bear, but nah, let's just keep simple for now. So our bear class extends our animal class, and thereby we are told to extend it, which means create a constructor. That's similar to the animal class. But what you might see different is in the first line of our constructor we will use the super keyword, which means we create a constructor that takes in string name and an int age, just like animal class. But instead of having the attributes, it's in our bear class as well. We'll just call a super keyword, which means we take the name and take the age and give it to the super class and use it as this was already implemented in the bear class as well. So this is a way to like get rid of duplicate code, because we reuse all the code we already made in the animal class. So we don't need to create another attributes, name and age, and we don't need to create another method that returns the name. I've already got this. But let's say we want something really specific about a bear. We would, for example, create a public void eat method, I guess. So our bear would be eating, and we could just simply go print something to the console, go bear, the bear is eating, I guess. I know it's not very creative, but it's just what it does, I guess. It eats. So the bear's eating. So now we could create a bear class. So we would go just like creating any other normal object, bear equals new bear, and we would give our bear a name. Let's call him Jim, and an age of 3. I think is proper. So we can call some methods on a bear. We can call the eat method, which we created inside our bear class, and we will print the bear's eating. Or we could call the get name method. So right now we're returning the name, or we would like to print the name. There we go. So we call the getName, which was actually a method from our animal class, but we can use it in the bear class as well because we extend animal. So everything in the animal class is also usable. Oops, there we go. We can also be used in the bear class, except if it is private. This is where our access modifiers actually come into a very important role. So because this name and the age is private, we would not just be able inside a bear class, for example, to create a method that would go public void get bear name, for example. We can't just go print name because there's no name inside bear, and the name variable inside animal is private. But because we create the getName method, we can call the getName method and get the name. Which also, like, this is very important because we're not allowed, we can't change the name, for example, inside a bear method. We can't change the name anywhere. In here, we would need to either create a set name method in animal and then access the name by our method to actually access it. And this is where encapsulation comes into point. But for now, we just call bear.getName and we get name Jim. Or we could call the newly created method of bear.getBearName, which would just straight up print the name Jim. So this is the basics of our inheritance. Create one class, create another class that extends, use the extends keyword, very important, extends our animal class. We use the super keyword to access a constructor from a superclass in our subclass, and we would use private for attributes, access modifiers, to determine what we want to be able to access or not. And we create getName, for example, to be able to access the name and use the name in our animal class as well. So this is the basics of our inheritance. Hope you enjoyed and see you in the next video.